A Reddit post, and it's a story about a US soldier in the Army who gets even with his unfaithful wife when he was deployed in an IRAQ and starts where he is deployed, and she doesn't want him to go, and she's crying her eyes out, and all that. She was gonna live cheaply with one of her friends for a while and pay off their debts. When he gets back, they can start a family. So he was deployed, and he starts to notice after a couple of months, all of a sudden she seems more distant. She's not as enthusiastic to talk to him. She responds to his text with 1 or 2 word answers, and behold, he finds that unfaithful. And so this guy is in Iraq, and any day something could happen, and he could get killed. But meanwhile, she's back at home living on his paychecks and unfaithful to him. Real nice, huh? And it's sad because I've heard a lot of stories that this happens a lot with you guys. They're stationed overseas, and it seems that this happens quite a bit. I've heard a lot of stories, and so it's interesting, and it's entertaining here what he does to get even with her. So the title of his story is Revenge on an Unfaithful Wife, now ex, as well as the karma that came afterward. Starts by saying, "So I am in the Army and I was married. I was approaching my first deployment. So the guy's young here. It was very stressful, and it had my wife wanting me to find a way to stay and not deploy obvious things any wife would try to talk about anyways. So we have no kids, but we both want them. So we talk about getting out of debt while I'm gone. She talks to her best friend back home in another state where we are both from. Her friend agrees to let her move in and charge a modest $300 a month in rent, so we can get out of debt and start a family. When I got back home, I was very pleased. I deploy, and she's there crying her eyes out saying she will miss me and loves me, and we will start a family when we get back home. All right, so far so good. Here's where things go south real quick. Fast forward 2 months, and she starts acting distant, not wanting to talk much on our scheduled calls or text back 1 or 2 word answers. We've been together for 6 years, and she's never at a loss for words. Always pay attention to what a woman does, not what she says. Not the whole, then you get the lovey-dovey words, but still pay attention to her actions. If all of a sudden you guys are in a relationship or dating or whatever, if all of a sudden she stops enthusiastically talking to you, if she's responding to your messages and 1 or 2 word answers and things like that, something's up. Her interest is dropping. That could be a leading indication eventually. Either she's unfaithful with some other dude, or she's gonna break up with you anytime. So always pay attention to what a woman's doing, not what she says. Again, for you guys that are dating and all that. Anyway, one day she said, "I need some space." In the classic line, she asked someone who is 10,000 miles away. I say, why? Why does she need some space? She wants to find herself. So I remember back when we lived at home, she had a guy who was always being borderline inappropriate. Seems like good-looking women always had that one guy that's like that. And of course, they always have plenty of male orbiters that are more than happy to jump in. The second thing you start, I'm not a very jealous person, and I trust her. So I start seeing the said guy on basically all her pictures. She posts within a group, obviously on social media. Every time he is in the picture, everyone also changes, but never him. So for the first time, I'm very jealous and uneasy about everything. So I clone her phone. So I receive every text she receives as well as every text she sends. I'll never forget the first text I saw after cloning her phone, and he's reading, "Hey babe, I'll see you after work. Want me to save you any leftovers?" From her to him, it destroyed me. I lost 35 pounds in a week. I didn't eat or sleep. I stared at the phone watching every conversation, watching them talk about trying to have a baby. Ouch. It was everything a married person fears. I ask her if she is seeing someone and she says, no, she isn't. She is taking care of herself and she loves me, blah, blah. Again, pay attention to her actions, not her words. I didn't say anything about receiving her text for 2 months, man. He kept this quiet for 2 months. He's young. I've confronted them right away. Done. Over this time, she finally emits unfaithful, and that he is so much better than me at treating her right and doing what she wants. And again, this guy is 10,000 miles away. At any moment, something could happen to him. Meanwhile, she's getting the paychecks and enjoying the good old life with her husband, who she admitted she's unfaithful to and will continue to receive the checks cause he's not like he can divorce her while he's stationed overseas. But karma is awful, and he gets even with her during this time. She pays our debt, gets tattoos with him, and he says, matching, I love you tattoos, goes to shows with him, buys clothes, etc. with the money I'm making. This is where the revenge starts. I put a freeze on the account for a month. During that time, I change every password to every account. She won't guess, and he says army jargon and slang terms. I block her on Facebook on my phone, so she has no way to contact me. She lost her car to the repo. A few months later, got kicked out of her place and had to sell her prized shoes and purses just to stay alive. I then find out she got a job at her old restaurant, so I post all the text conversations I have with her and the guy talking about having babies that have timestamps on them, as well as post conversations we had with the matching timestamps, showing all our friends what she had. I then have friends call and complain at her job constantly on both he and her. They work at a restaurant, so I also have friends dine and dash. They both get fired. Woo. So she tries to call my command and tell them that I am abandoning her and she can't provide for herself. My commander knows what's going on. He does nothing because he had something similar. Then about a month before I come back, she calls me from another number to tell me she is pregnant with his kid. Big surprise. Mind you, I'm still gone, so we cannot get divorced yet. And by the way, the thing about her contacting his commander. I know for a fact in the military they don't mess around in terms of they don't want guys unfaithful to their wives and things like that. They want to order. One of my buddies, a long time ago, was I believe, captain in the Coast Guard. He was in charge of one of the boats he was on, and when they would go on leave, wherever they were, this guy ran a tight ship, no pun intended. And if any of these guys were messing around with their wives, they would get in trouble. Seriously. And you would think that, hey, it's not their business. And I think what somebody does in the bedroom is their own business. But in the military, they want to order back at home because stability and order back home, and a family and a marriage help the guys do their job. But from everything I've heard, this type of thing happens all the time. It's really sad, especially for the young guys. It goes on to say, she moved away with him 10 hours from me. And then it says April 24th, 2018. This is a couple of years old. She calls me 5 months pregnant, crying uncontrollably, asking me where she should go. They had a giant fight, and she tells him she is leaving. She says she doesn't know where to go, and I simply say, sorry, not my problem anymore. It's not his problem. Fast forward to January of this year. She calls me from a mutual friend's phone, and this is their conversation. She says he hit me. I don't know what to do. Me the guy, maybe you don't be unfaithful to your husband when he is deployed. For some guy who talks about a big game, I guess you're happy about this. Me the guy, no, but I'm glad I know that I'm not the bad guy in this story. And then the next month she calls him again. He is unfaithful to me with 2 girls. I'm sorry. I regret everything I did. I messed it all up. Putting on the Sobe story, and he says, yeah, you did. So notice how the first thing, like, she dares to give him, gets mad at him, and gives him trash. And then, later on, she's crying about it and wanting the guy that she was unfaithful to and lied to him, did all these things, and spent all his money and got pregnant with another guy's baby. She wants him to fix it, and she wants him to feel bad. Are you kidding me? All in all, this woman destroyed my life and put me into a deep depression. I'm still dealing with it, But I do feel a little better having proof that I wasn't the problem. It wasn't the problem. To think of this happening even 10 or 5 years ago, I would have come back to an empty bank account, an empty house, as well as seeing my then-wife pregnant with another man's baby. She hit me up yesterday to ask for some money to cover and help recover. And that's the end of the story. But he had a little thing here because he got some questions cause he edited his post on Reddit, and he says to answer a few questions, he says, I realized I left out that we got divorced before the kid was born. So I have no financial responsibility to her and have it now for almost a year. Hey, that's it. He said, I mainly use T-Mobile's digit service to clone the phone. Google it. I don't feel like typing it. Yeah, I always wonder how people talk about cloning phones and how that worked. Not that I want to do it, but I'm just curious. Please let me know if you or anyone you know has ever cloned a phone. I'm just curious. He adds, also, I was not celebrating that she was physically hurt, and he acknowledges this. The only thing I did was tell her to call the police. Abusing another person is wrong, but I am not obligated to look out for her safety. So there you have it. That is all there is to the story. Even with her, he got. And once more, it's really sad because this keeps coming up to me. When these young men are deployed, their lives are in jeopardy, and anything could happen to them at any time. Their wives back home, on the other hand, meet several men who live in their homes and spend their money. It's a pity, but he got it, and I hope this guy gets his life in order and learns from this difficult experience. Even with her, justice has been served for his good. In the meantime, she is still with that child, but it is evident that she has found another person to care for the child. This is certain as long as she retains her attractive appearance.